Among parents, this is actually a trauma for the children, right? So yes, and furthermore, in a marriage, there has to be a medium in a sense, in some values, some society pressure, or some families, etc., and many other things, and which are missing right now. And thank you so much for
I
sharing.
think, can I just quickly add on one more point
Yes,
towards
please. Yes, please.
this question?
Yes.
As I was rightly saying, it's about the value system that's eroded, right? So I do not endorse it to others, but I personally, and even in my home with my son, we personally believe that uh, the ancient or the traditional way of living was scientific. We just push it away saying it's ritualistic or old fashioned or whatever, because we just find modern and cooler terms, but they've been very scientific in the way they've been designed, which specifically mentions that in this kind of live-in relationship where we are allowing different energies to enter our private circle or a private space can really mess up the energies of our own system. So it has been kind of uh, taught not to indulge in these kind of mixture of variety of energies into our system, which will only hamper our growth towards the end, be it physical well-being, emotional well-being, mental, all kinds of well-being are getting affected because we could be allowing uh, too many exposures or energies to enter our space. And that energy doesn't, I don't really mean it to be a person. It could be an exposure to a certain way of thinking, or it could be an exposure to say not very acceptable content that's very easily available to the youngsters online. So energies could be in various forms. It's just that we've been exposed to too much of it entering our own thinking space, which kinds of messes it up. So it's very important for us to bring that foundation or anchor in the next generation in terms of yoga, meditation. I'm a strong endorser of it. That will give them an anchor to hold on to whenever the storm comes. The storm will come in everybody's life in some form or the other. It's just that they should not drift away into the storm. They need to have that strong anchor. So it's up to us to provide that atmosphere as parents.
Thank you so much.
May I?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Guy.
Sorry, I agree entirely. I mean, in terms of she talks about energies. One way to think about it, though, also is the amount of competing beliefs, etc. So in the past, we would be in a smaller community where, the belief and value system and is very easy for people to understand. In today's day and age, there's a lot of competing different belief systems, etc., and it stresses people out. And we see this through mental health, increase in mental health issues, in suicides, there's all sorts of areas where I think this sort of confusion and this lack of coherence in terms of a sort of belief and value system that we operate in is getting a bit more confused. I would agree as well. I mean, yoga is probably something more as a I would think is somewhere more of a coping mechanism rather than a system in itself. But there would be great things to sort of help people deal with that. Yeah.
Information, we are going to touch that topic, that question later and as well also. And I strongly believe the energies does play an important role in our life. So my next question would be like, do you have any stories to share and for others to learn? We can start with Mr. Guy.
Sure. Stories with regards to why I'm not married, why I'm single now. Very well. Yeah. Well, I didn't. I was hoping. I had when I was younger and naive. I believed marriage was something for life, and it was something that I was committed to. I was committed to my partner, and I hoped it would last for forever, so to speak. So it was a big shock to me when the marriage fell apart. It's interesting. I mean, I don't believe any of none of the responsibility in terms of directly. I believe was on me with regards to my marriage breakdown. Obviously, we all have some blame in terms of, even if it was a case of being naive around some of the dynamics in a relationship that led it where it did, which is then, one of the interesting things on that is, I would say it's probably good not to get married too young, really, because definitely I would have benefited from understanding dynamics in relationships more, and being a bit more, older and experienced. I think I actually feel, my marriage has caused me quite a lot of trauma in a few ways, and obviously to a lot of people as well. And it's not something you'd want, but at the same time, I would also say that I've learned a lot as a result of it, which I don't think is possible to learn any other way. So, that there are benefits, and I feel I'm kind of, in some ways, I'm grateful for the experience, and because I don't see how I could have learned so much without it. However, yeah, it's interesting to consider in terms of how we help prepare and mold a society for younger generations, so that trauma is unnecessary. And that's a difficult thing to consider.
I understand relationship is not like we may fall in love and get married, but again, it has a long way to go, and see how, I mean, depending on the partners, how it goes.
If you want me to elaborate more, I mean, in my case, I first moved to Singapore when I was around, I think I was around 24, 25. And I met my ex-wife then. A couple of years later, I returned to London, and she moved to London as well. And I think partly because she made that sacrifice, I was also making more effort in the relationship. And we sort of got married about 9-10 years later. And actually, I delayed proposing to her for a long time because I think there was something that didn't feel right to me in the relationship. And so I wish I was more able to articulate and be more confident in myself in not acting on that. But I think in some ways, I had this ideal of wanting to be married, having a family, and I felt I almost owed it to her to propose after being together for so long. And maybe that was my mistake, because I don't believe my ex-wife at that point was really committed or in the right frame of mind to get married. And that's why, it didn't take long for it to fall apart, basically, after we got married.
Thank you so much, Gami. We dreamed to have perfect marriage, right? So, well, we'll see this more, and we'll share more stories. Let us have Pamela to share her.
Okay, hi. I think I could kind of relate to Guy's story as well. I met my ex-husband when I was 20, and I got married legally at 23. There were some pressures from family. I was not ready. I would have left. I would have so-called run away, and traditionally got married at 24, but I wasn't ready to get married. And I think the reason why my ex-husband wanted to marry me was because maybe he couldn't see himself getting anyone else at that point in time, but eventually he had an affair. And the affair actually led to a lot of complications within family, his family, my family, and the beautiful part of it only was that I had the support of my ex-in-laws. Till now, I am to say that I had extended family. It took a village to bring up my children. And that was because at the end of the day, it was the children that we were looking at. But he was not for it. He was an absent father. He wanted to have the kids so that he can take the house. There was a lot of trauma I actually went through. And for me, I've been through so much of trauma. I've even tried dating, and I'll tell you one thing, I've gone through so much. But I still believe that there is marriage, there are people who fall in love. Um, Anyone can fall in love. People can go through the worst experiences in life and still fall in love. I don't know. Some people will say you're crazy. You might as well be alone. I've had people who tell me like, oh, I don't need a man in my life, or you don't need to be married. But the thing is, for me, I think that it is because of the experiences that we have in life. That's why it makes us think. I had my children. I almost lost my children to my ex-husband and his mistress, whom he later married. But fast forward, if he knew that he was going to fall sick and pass on the way he did, he was a fraction of the man he was when he passed on. So I think he wouldn't have ended it, because my idea of marriage is for a lifetime. I think that we actually tell our wedding vows everywhere in the ROM or in the church or wherever it is. We tell this line, till death do us part, and through uh, sickness and in health. If anybody is not interested to stay faithful in the marriage, they should forgo that line. I would be really very frank about it. I've I've spoken to people who are going to get married. Even my own brother, I asked him like, so you're going to marry this girl? I've gone through divorce. I don't want another divorce in the family. You're going to stay married? Uh, for me, I feel that if you're going to get married, you stay married for life. Don't fool around, don't play around. If you want to see somebody behind your spouse's back, tell them, I'm going to see some. Why do you need to hide? There are a lot of men or women, for the matter, also doing that. So for me, the thing is, I feel that there are people who still fall in love, who still get married. That's how the world is still going around, is what my perception is. Um, so I feel that I may have gone through so much of trauma. Even after marriage, I've been through so much. I still feel that people can, still date, get to know one another. It's just that whether you find the right person or not. So getting into the marriage, we need to actually know what is it that we're getting into. Is this the person we're going to really live our lives with? And there are marriage causes right now. I'm Catholic, so the church actually has a cause that actually, goes through every aspect of marriage. And in that cause itself, I'll tell you very frankly, when I went for that cause myself, I told him it won't work. He was one saying, no, we will make it work. We can work around it. It will work. But the thing is, if really anything cannot work, it's best to sit down and talk about it before the marriage. Not feel that it will be solved after marriage. This is not a movie, where someone's going to change after marriage. So this is my take on marriage and the experience I went through. Thank you.
Well,